The Auditore family is perhaps the most iconic family in the entire Assassin's Creed series, but there are a few members of the family that people may not know about. So with that said, today I'll be explaining the life and lore of all 14 members that we have information on. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and let's get started. The earliest known member of the Auditore family was Domenico Auditore, an assassin in the Italian Brotherhood and the founder of the Auditore lineage. He was responsible for establishing the Villa Auditore in the Tuscan town of Monteriggioni, which later became the main headquarters of the Italian assassins during the Renaissance. Domenico grew up in Venice and began working as an apprentice sailor at an incredibly young age, practically as soon as he could walk. He eventually carried cargo for his father's patron, Marco Polo. While searching for work at the harbour one day, Domenico met and fell in love with a young woman named Isabetta. Despite his life at sea, the two maintained their relationship, later marrying and having a son together named Renato. One summer afternoon, Domenico was summoned by his patron and arrived to find his father and an older man wearing a strange hooded cloak. His father then revealed a life-changing secret. He was an assassin, and Domenico is meant to follow the same path. The hooded man was Dante Alighieri, who would later become Domenico's mentor and train him in the ways of the Brotherhood in exchange for passage to Spain. As they prepared for the journey, Domenico met with Dante frequently to gather supplies and talk about life, love, honour and justice. Dante taught him that society was shaped by its rulers, to control people and prevent them from questioning the truth. He also showed Domenico the codex written by Altair, which Marco Polo had acquired during his time at the court of Kublai Khan. During his training, Domenico met the French master assassin Thomas de Cornelion. In October of 1307, when the French Brotherhood planned an attack on the Temple of Paris to wipe out the Templar Order, Domenico believed it would be a major victory. Cornelion, however, feared it would only force the Templars to operate in secrecy instead of eliminating them entirely. On September 14, 1321, Domenico returned to Ravenna to collect his belongings and learned that Dante had died. When he went to tell his father and Marco Polo, they revealed the truth before he could speak. Dante had been murdered by the Templars, who were still active. They had been watching him closely, hoping to obtain the codex he planned to take to Spain. Domenico's father ordered him to leave immediately, taking the codex and his family with him. Before he departed, Marco Polo gave Domenico a small slip of paper with his bank account number, allowing him to access funds whenever needed. Domenico set sail that very night aboard a ship loaded with cargo bound for Barcelona. However, on the 25th of September 1321, the crew was forced to take shelter in the harbour of Otranto to avoid an approaching storm. While docked there, pirates secretly boarded the ship, men working for the Templars. By the time Domenico realised what was happening, it was already too late. He hid with his family in the ship's hold, broke the codex apart, and scattered its pages into different boxes and containers to keep it from being taken. The pirates eventually found Domenico and his family and demanded the codex. Noticing that they were drunk, Domenico claimed he had thrown it overboard. Two of the pirates restrained him, while the others assaulted Isabetta. They murdered her and threw her body into the sea. Afterward, they cast Domenico and his son overboard as well, looted the cargo and sank the ship. Fortunately, Domenico and his son managed to reach shore, and the following day they discovered Isabetta's body washed up on the beach. Afterward, Domenico and his son travelled overland to Florence. Using Marco Polo's bank account number, which he had memorised, Domenico rented a small room for his son. He then returned to Venice in disguise to meet with his father and patron, only to discover that they both had already been killed. He returned to Florence the next day. After settling into his new life, Domenico immersed himself in studying the classics, took vocal lessons, and collected architectural works. By posing as a nobleman at the Florentine court and adopting the name Auditore, he successfully integrated himself into the city's nobility. Domenico later purchased and restored what would become the Villa Auditore in Monteriggioni. He trained his son in the ways of the assassins, just as his own father had trained him. Over time, Domenico became a relentless hunter of Templars, determined to drive the order out of Italy in honour of his late wife and father. Before his death, Domenico had the Auditore family crypt constructed within the city, carving his memoirs into stone plaques that lined its walls. He also built a sanctuary to house the armour of Altair, and then hid the 6 seals in assassin tombs scattered across Italy. Isabetta was born around 1276 and later became the wife of Domenico Auditore and the mother of Renato Auditore. Through her family line, she was a great-grandmother of fellow assassins Giovanni and Mario Auditore. Around 1296, Isabetta met Domenico, and the two quickly fell in love. Domenico soon left to return to life at sea, but came back not long after and they married. Shortly after their wedding, they welcomed their son Renato. In September of 1321, following the murder of Domenico's mentor, Dante Alighieri, at the hands of the Templars, Domenico decided to leave for Spain with Isabetta and Renato. However, after their trading ship was forced to dock in the harbour of Otranto, it was attacked by pirates hired by the Templars. Isabetta was assaulted and killed during the attack, and her body later washed ashore, where it was discovered by her husband and son. Renato Auditore was a member of the Italian Brotherhood of Assassins and the only known son of the assassin Domenico and his wife Isabetta. In 1321, Renato was travelling aboard his father's trading ship when it was attacked by pirates working for the Templar Order, who was searching for the Codex of Altair in Domenico's possession. During the attack, Renato's mother was murdered and both Renato and his father were thrown overboard. Despite this, the two managed to reach shore alive. The following day, they discovered Isabetta's body washed up along the coast, and from there they travelled overland back to Florence, where Domenico used Marco Polo's bank account to rent a small room for Renato. After Domenico returned from Venice, the two adopted the Auditore name, posing as Florentine nobles and successfully blending into the city's upper society. Domenico later brought and restored what would become the Villa Auditore in Monteriggioni, and Renato soon began training for his future as an assassin. In 1355, the Italian assassins came into possession of a Shroud of Eden, after stealing it from the Templar Geoffrey de Chauny. After studying the artifact, Renato ordered it to be hidden beneath the crypt of the Villa Auditore, located inside the walled city of Monteriggioni. To protect the secret, the assassins destroyed official records and sent reports to the church claiming the shroud was nothing more than a forgery. Although Renato's notes were deliberately vague and cryptic, along with records of his excavation of the city well, they eventually guided his grandson Mario Auditore to rediscover the shroud. Much later in 2012, Renato's memories were recovered through his descendants and analysed using the data dump scanner as part of Abstergo Industries' Project Legacy. While cataloguing this genetic data, Abstergo's head of historical research, Isabella Ardant, reviewed Renato's memories. She ultimately dismissed him as a fairly unremarkable assassin, arguing that the Auditore family only truly became interesting with Renato's grandsons, Mario and Giovanni. Unfortunately, not much is known about Ilario Auditore, as he only appears in a handful of database entries. What we do know is that he was active during the 1440s as a Florentine noble and was considered a close friend of Cosimo de' Medici. Ilario served Cosimo as gonfaloniere until 1442, when he was succeeded by Luca degli Albizzi. Beyond that, there's very little information available about his life. Mario Auditore was born in Monteriggioni on March 19, 1434. On the night of his birth, a Florentine mercenary hired to assassinate the Auditore family managed to infiltrate the villa. While the midwives were attending to Mario's mother, the mercenary was discovered dead in the nursery. His death was never explained, especially since Mario was the only person in the room at the time. When Mario was 2 years old, his younger brother Giovanni was born. Coming from a long line of notable assassins, Mario followed the same path and began his training at a very young age. At just 6 years old, Mario played a key role in the Battle of Angari. While travelling to Monterchi with his father, he spotted dust clouds rising along the road and alerted the condottiero Micheletto Attendolo. The clouds signalled a surprise advance by Milanese troops, and thanks to the warning, the Florentines were able to stop the attack and secure victory. Despite helping the Florentines in that moment, Mario spent much of his later life defending Monteriggioni from repeated Florentine attacks on the town. In 1454, after Mario's younger brother Giovanni moved to Florence to pursue a career in banking, and following their father's death, Mario became the sole ruler of Monteriggioni. He chose to remain at the villa and stayed in contact with Giovanni through letters, famously writing that he preferred fighting like a man to filling out balance sheets. After that, it's implied he rarely saw the rest of his family. Under Mario's leadership, Monteriggioni entered a period of prosperity. He opened new shops and guilds throughout the city and significantly strengthened its defences to better withstand Florentine attacks. That same year, Mario uncovered a Florentine informant, Luciano Pezzati, living within Monteriggioni. Alongside his own mercenaries, Mario confronted Pezzati and his men. Mario duelled Luciano and narrowly defeated him, having the spy dragged back to the villa. From him, Mario learned that Florence was preparing an attack on Monteriggioni, led by the condottiero Federico da Montefeltro. Despite this threat, Mario's leadership ensured that the city held strong, and the invasion ultimately failed. Later on, Luciano confessed the real reason behind the siege. The Florentines were searching for a mysterious artifact hidden within the city. Mario was intrigued by this, and so he gathered architects and historians to investigate and eventually uncover records showing that the city well had once been drained and excavated years earlier. Mario descended into the well alongside a miner and several of his men. At first they found nothing, but Mario noticed the miner's flame flickering near the back wall, suggesting a hidden opening. Pushing against it, they revealed a secret corridor filled with deadly traps. Several of his men were killed, and Mario himself was struck by a swinging pendulum, leaving him blinded in his left eye and scarred across the face. Despite their injuries, the group eventually reached a wooden box hidden deep within the well. A mysterious presence spoke to Mario's men, telling them that their pain was temporary, and urging them to ignore it. Convinced the presence would heal them, the men wanted to open the box. Mario, however, believed there was a reason it had been hidden for so long, and that opening it would be a mistake. This disagreement caused his men to turn against him, forcing Mario to strike them down. Though deeply curious about the box's contents, he refused to open it. Instead, Mario carried it back to the villa, ignoring the artifact's promises to heal him. After storing it there temporarily, he summoned his brother to retrieve it, dismissing the object as the Brotherhood's problem. In 1476, Giovanni and his sons Federico and Petruccio were executed on false charges of treason by Rodrigo Borgia, leader of the Italian Templars. Giovanni's surviving son Ezio fled Florence with his mother Maria and his sister Claudia, heading for the safety in Monteriggioni. Along the way they were attacked by Vieri de Pazzi, but Ezio's uncle arrived with his mercenaries and rescued them. When they got to the villa, Mario revealed Ezio's assassin lineage and began training him in combat, tactics and discipline so he could fight the Templars and protect his family. Despite Mario's objections, Ezio later planned to take his mother and sister to Spain, which caused a rift between them. Feeling remorseful, Ezio followed Mario to San Gimignano and helped him kill Vieri de Pazzi. When Ezio disrespected the corpse, Mario intervened and reminded him to honour the dead. After their victory, Mario introduced Ezio to the assassin sanctuary beneath the villa and explained the importance of the codex. In 1488, Mario met with other assassin leaders in Venice to intercept the Apple of Eden from Rodrigo Borgia. They found Ezio already battling him, and together the assassins drove Rodrigo away, recovering the artifact in the process. Mario then revealed to Ezio that his allies were all assassins, and Ezio was formally inducted into the Brotherhood that night. Mario later studied the apple with Ezio, Leonardo da Vinci and Niccolo Machiavelli. When the artifact was activated, Mario and Machiavelli were overwhelmed by its power, prompting Mario to urge Ezio to safeguard it at Forli under Caterina Sforza's protection. He also invited Leonardo to Monteriggioni. In 1498, Mario witnessed Ezio assassinate Girolamo Savonarola and addressed the people of Florence. Shortly afterward, Ezio asked Mario to travel to Spain to support the assassin cause there, and Mario agreed. In December of 1499, Mario, Ezio, and several other assassins met at the villa to uncover the secret hidden within the codex. Ezio travelled to Rome to confront Rodrigo and enter the vault, while Mario and the other assassins created unrest across the city to divert the papal forces. Afterward, Ezio exited the chamber and reunited with Mario in the Sistine Chapel, where Mario remarked that such artifacts were too dangerous to be wielded by humans. As they escaped to the Vatican together, Mario urged Ezio to throw the Apple of Eden into the Tiber River. When Ezio hesitated, Mario took responsibility for the artifact himself, promising to safeguard it until the right decision could be made. The two returned to Monteriggioni on New Year's Day in 1500. Along the way, Ezio described his experience in the vault, and Mario advised him not to dwell on prophecies that concerned a distant future. Mario also proudly pointed out the new cannons he had installed to strengthen the city's defences. At dawn on January 2nd, Cesare Borgia launched a surprise assault on Monteriggioni. Mario planned to guard the apple and lead the defence while Ezio disabled the enemy artillery. During the fighting, Mario was gravely wounded and collapsed at the city's gates. Cesare Borgia confronted him, shot him dead while he still held the apple, and had his head displayed as a threat meant for Ezio. Giovanni Auditore was born in Monteriggioni in 1436, 2 years after his older brother Mario. From a young age, both brothers were trained in the ways of the assassins, though Giovanni also received additional education in banking and other academic subjects. During his youth in Monteriggioni, Giovanni also explored the Auditore family crypt. In 1450, Giovanni met and married Maria de Mozzi, eventually revealing his secret involvement with the Assassin Brotherhood to her. Over the next several years, they had 4 children. Their first son, Federico, was born in 1454, followed by Ezio in 1459, Claudia in 1461, and Petruccio in 1463. In 1454, Giovanni assisted his fellow assassins in dealing with a Shroud of Eden. After Mario uncovered the artifact hidden beneath Monteriggioni, he summoned Giovanni to remove it from the city and place it under the protection of the Brotherhood. In 1455, Giovanni had his first encounter with a young Lorenzo de' Medici, the grandson of Cosimo. After Lorenzo fell into the Arno River and nearly drowned, Giovanni jumped in and saved his life. This act forged a lasting bond between the two, and Lorenzo later became both a close friend and patron to Giovanni, strengthening the ties between their families. Around 1456, Giovanni represented a woman named Paola in court after she killed a guard who attacked her. He argued successfully that she had acted in self-defense, and so Giovanni won the case. Over time, Giovanni revealed his identity as an assassin to his eldest son Federico, whom he began training in the Brotherhood's ways. He also confided in Lorenzo, carrying out several secret missions for him, often without the knowledge of the rest of his family. In 1476, Giovanni confronted Rodrigo Borgia in a Florentine alley. Although Giovanni killed 2 of Rodrigo's guards and subdued a third, Rodrigo managed to escape. Giovanni turned the surviving guard over to Uberto Alberti for interrogation. Whilst under torture, the captive revealed that the Templars planned to assassinate Galeazzo Maria Sforza, the Duke of Milan. Giovanni rushed to Milan to stop the plot but arrived too late. He avenged the Duke by killing some of the assassins, while the Duke's guards dealt with the rest. After searching one of the dead conspirators, Giovanni found coins marked with Venice's winged lion. He travelled to Venice, infiltrated St. Mark's Basilica, and overheard Marco and Silvio Barbarigo arranging communication with their master in Rome. Giovanni followed their courier and cornered him after a fierce struggle, but the man unalived himself rather than reveal information. Giovanni recovered a sealed letter bearing the Barbarigo crest and brought it back to Florence, where he and Lorenzo discovered it was encrypted. Later, Giovanni was summoned by Lorenzo and Uberto. Before leaving home, he reassured his wife Maria, who was concerned that their son Ezio had begun to notice Giovanni's frequent nighttime absences. At the meeting, Uberto falsely claimed the letter could not be decoded and insisted Giovanni deliver it personally to Rome, which Giovanni agreed to do. Whilst in Rome, Giovanni traced the letter to Rodrigo Borgia and confronted him in St. Peter's Basilica. Rodrigo praised Giovanni's abilities and attempted to recruit him into the Templar Order, but Giovanni refused. He fought off Rodrigo's men despite being badly outnumbered, though Rodrigo wounded him with a thrown knife and escaped. Giovanni returned to Florence injured and confided in Maria that the Duke's murder was likely part of a bigger conspiracy. Before he could explain further, Federico warned him that Father Antonio Maffei had arrived with armed guards. Giovanni then escaped the palazzo through a hidden passage, asking his son to help cover the exit. Around this period, Giovanni uncovered proof that Francesco de Pazzi had committed murder and arranged for Uberto to have him arrested. After Ezio became involved in a fight with Vieri de Pazzi on the Ponte Vecchio, Giovanni reprimanded his son for his recklessness, while fondly noting that Ezio reminded him of himself in his youth. Giovanni then asked Ezio to deliver a letter to Lorenzo, but when Lorenzo was found to be temporarily absent from Florence, Ezio was instead sent on several other errands. While Ezio was away, armed guards acting on Uberto's orders stormed the Auditore home. Giovanni and his sons Federico and Petruccio were arrested and imprisoned in the tower overlooking the Piazza della Signoria. Ezio later climbed the clock tower to speak with his father, who instructed him to retrieve documents hidden behind a fireplace in their home and deliver them to Uberto to clear the family's name. Ezio followed his father's instructions, taking Giovanni's assassin gear and presented the evidence to Uberto. The following day, Giovanni was horrified to see Uberto standing beside Rodrigo Borgia, denying that he had ever received the documents. Giovanni and his sons were condemned to death for treason. Giovanni angrily vowed that Uberto and his new Templar allies would one day pay for their betrayal. After the executions, the bodies of Giovanni, Federico and Petruccio were meant to be dumped in the Arno River. However, Ezio, with the help of Cristina Vespucci, recovered their remains and honoured them with a proper funeral, sending them off on burning funeral boats along the river. Maria was born in 1432 into the wealthy and influential Mozzi family of Florence. Her parents were extremely protective, sheltering her from much of the outside world. Resenting this control, Maria deliberately sought out the company of the city's lower classes, wanting a life beyond the confines set for her. Eventually, her parents reached a compromise and allowed her to open a bakery inside the family palazzo. About a week later, she met Giovanni Auditore there. Swept up by Giovanni's charm, the two grew close and were married in 1450. After the marriage, Maria moved in with Giovanni, and over the years they had 4 children. During the early years of their marriage, Giovanni was inducted into the Assassin Brotherhood and asked Maria to help keep his secret from their children. Not long after, Maria herself was initiated into the order. By 1476, Maria had become a patron of several local artists, including Leonardo da Vinci. After some time, she eventually introduced Ezio to Leonardo. I'm not going to continue at the moment with the rest of Maria's story, because from this point on, her and Claudia's story are linked. And so to avoid repeating myself, I'll go into more detail when I explain Claudia's story. Born around 1456, Federico Auditore grew up living a comfortable life with his family in the Palazzo Auditore in Florence. He was originally trained to become a banker at a Medici bank, but he quickly earned a reputation as a notorious slacker. At one point, he even hid a sack of the bank's money on the roof as a joke. Luckily for Federico, being an Auditore meant he was simply removed from the payroll, rather than facing more serious consequences. As the eldest child in the family, Federico took his role as a protector seriously. When Antonio Maffei arrived at the palazzo in an attempt to arrest Giovanni for the first time, Federico managed to stall the guards long enough for Giovanni to escape, insisting that his father wasn't home. When the men forced their way inside and found only Federico and his mother, Federico stood his ground, kicked them out of the palazzo, and warned them never to doubt an Auditore again. In 1476, while Ezio was fighting Vieri de' Pazzi, a member of a rival noble family, Federico showed up to back his brother. He proved himself to be a capable fighter, and once they won the brawl, Federico told Ezio to loot their defeated opponents for money to pay for his injuries. Afterward, Federico sent Ezio to the doctor to get patched up. Once Ezio was treated, Federico challenged him to a race, and the two climbed to the top of a nearby church to take in the view of Florence. The next morning, Federico relaxed at home while Ezio ran errands for the family. Later that same day, however, Federico was beaten and arrested by the city guards, along with his father and younger brother. Federico was held overnight as Ezio desperately tried to secure his family's release. The following morning, Federico was executed alongside his father and brother. That night, Ezio and Cristina secretly transported his body by boat so they could be given a proper burial. Years later, Rodrigo Borgia revealed to Ezio that Federico and Petruccio never needed to die, claiming he had ordered their executions simply to make a point. Claudia Auditore was born on January 2nd, 1461 in Florence. By 1476, she was betrothed to Duccio de Luca, a member of another Florentine noble family. Over time, Claudia began hearing rumours of Duccio's infidelity, which of course left her upset. Noticing this, her brother Ezio confronted Duccio on her behalf, confirmed the rumours, and beat him in a fight. After that, Claudia ended the engagement. After her brother and father were arrested, Claudia, along with the family's maid Annetta, stayed behind to care for Maria and hide within the palazzo until Ezio returned to find their home destroyed. At Ezio's request, Annetta then took Claudia and Maria to her sister Paola's home, while Ezio went to the Palazzo della Signoria in search of their imprisoned family members. After Ezio succeeded in his objective, he took Claudia and Maria with him to Monteriggioni. Ezio's decision to stay at the city rather than go to Spain frustrated Claudia, who had little interest in staying behind. Not long after, Mario put Claudia in charge of Monteriggioni's finances, asking her to keep detailed records. At first, the responsibility infuriated her, especially since she was used to a far more comfortable lifestyle. Over time though, she grew into the role, even as she missed Ezio while he travelled across Italy hunting down Templars. As Ezio returned from his journeys with money and resources, Claudia's organisational skills helped to rebuild the city. The town gradually flourished again, becoming livelier and more populated, and during this period, Claudia married Mario's captain, and by 1488 she was expecting their child. Then in 1499, the Italian Brotherhood, including Ezio and Mario, began preparing for a mission to Rome to eliminate Rodrigo Borgia. Before the operation began, Claudia volunteered to lead a team of assassins to Naples to recover a hidden stockpile of weapons left behind by their father, which could prove crucial on the mission. When they arrived, however, they discovered that the Auditore storehouse had already been raided and the weapons stolen by mercenaries. After meeting with Piero of the Thieves Guild, Claudia and her team learned that Armilia Godato, a longtime enemy of the Auditore family, had taken the weapons to a hideout in the hills beneath Mount Vesuvius. The assassins infiltrated the stronghold and overheard a heated argument between Armilia and her lieutenant, Il Bruto, before Armilia then left with the stolen weapons. The team defeated Il Bruto, who revealed that Armilia had struck a deal with the Templars. In exchange for keeping the weapons out of assassin hands, they promised her control over Naples. Choosing to spare his life, Claudia and her team returned to the city and located Armilia's secret warehouse, using the information Il Bruto had provided. Once there, they eliminated her guards. and Claudia personally killed Armelia. With the weapons recovered, Claudia and the assassins delivered them to Bartolomeo di Alviano and his men. This allowed them to create a diversion in Rome, giving Ezio the opportunity to confront Rodrigo Borgia directly. On January 1st, 1500, when Ezio and Mario returned from their journey to Rome, Claudia greeted her brother outside the villa and immediately asked whether Rodrigo Borgia was finally dead, but Ezio avoided giving her a straight answer. With Claudia's birthday coming the next day, she hoped to keep the celebration a surprise for him, but the entire town was already busy preparing, making the secret hard to keep. Later that evening, Claudia joined Ezio and the others in Mario's study. There, Ezio explained why he had chosen to spare Rodrigo's life and shared what he had discovered in the vault beneath the Vatican. The next morning, on Claudia's birthday, Monteriggioni was suddenly besieged by the Borgia forces, led by Rodrigo's son, Cesare. Claudia helped secure her mother and several townspeople inside the sanctuary beneath the villa. However, when she left the villa, she was discovered and attacked by Borgia soldiers. Claudia was rescued by Ezio, who was badly wounded but managed to guide the survivors through a secret passage beneath Monteriggioni. Once they reached safety, Ezio told Claudia and Maria to return to Florence for their own protection. However, both refused, determined to support Ezio, and eventually followed him to Rome instead. Claudia and Maria made their way to the assassin headquarters on Tiber Island in Rome, where they then met with Machiavelli. Suspecting that Ezio might be visiting the courtesans at the Rosa in Fiore, Niccolo sent the two women there to look for him. While speaking with the courtesans, Claudia and Maria were soon joined by Ezio, who had just returned from a failed attempt to rescue the brothel's owner. With no one left to lead the courtesans, Claudia volunteered to take over the brothel's operations, a decision that clearly irritated Ezio. At Maria's urging, however, he agreed. Under Claudia's leadership, the courtesans began gathering intelligence on the Borgia for the Assassin Brotherhood. Their first assignment was to locate Caterina Sforza, who had been captured during the siege of Monteriggioni. Once the information was secured, Claudia met with Ezio and the other guild leaders at the assassin hideout, where they agreed their next goal was to eliminate both Rodrigo and Cesare. Claudia continued running the Rosa in Fiore for the next couple of years, and in 1503 she returned to the assassin hideout with new information, revealing that a senator named Egidio Trochet was closely tied to Cesare's banker. She pointed Ezio in the senator's direction and sent her courtesans to follow him when he went after the banker, collecting the stolen money and bringing it back to the brothel. Unfortunately, the courtesans were tailed by Borgia guards who infiltrated the brothel. Determined to protect her girls, Claudia armed herself with a knife and single-handedly took down the guards, just moments before Ezio arrived. Impressed by her resolve and skill, Ezio summoned Claudia to the hideout again in August of 1503. There, in the ceremony hall, Ezio formally inducted Claudia into the Assassin Brotherhood in front of the other assassins, and then she completed her initiation by performing a leap of faith into the Tiber River from the top of the hideout. Not long after, Claudia informed Ezio that a French cardinal, Georges d'Amboise, was planning to meet with Cesare. Ezio left to disrupt the meeting, and Claudia later joined him in eliminating the last of Cesare's supporters. She also witnessed Cesare's eventual arrest by Fabio Orsini and the Papal Guard. The following year, Maria's health declined, and she began speaking again of Giovanni, Federico, and Petruccio, before eventually passing away from illness. With Maria gone, Claudia assumed full control of the courtesans. Not long after, however, she was captured by a group of remaining Borgia loyalists, led by a Templar spy named Bruno. Bruno posed as an ally of Niccolo, and deliberately led both him and Ezio to the location where Claudia was being held, claiming that it was a secret Templar hideout. Ezio and Niccolo managed to defeat the Borgia fanatics and rescue Claudia. After the ordeal, Claudia chose to step down as Madame of the Rosa in Fiore and returned to Florence to recover under Paola's care. Claudia remained active within the Assassin Brotherhood, serving as one of Ezio's trusted advisors. By 1509, she returned to Monteriggioni to oversee renovations at the Villa Auditore. Unfortunately, the workers she hired spent more time loitering than rebuilding, and little progress was made. When Ezio joined her a few weeks later, Claudia told him about a music box hidden in the villa's attic and sent him on a small treasure hunt. Ezio eventually solved the puzzle and discovered a painting of himself, Claudia, and Maria, created by Leonardo da Vinci. While Ezio was occupied with the hunt, Claudia's newly hired assistant, Serafina, secretly a member of the Court of Hermes, led bandits in an attack on Monteriggioni in an attempt to wipe out the Auditore family. Both Claudia and Ezio survived the assassination attempts, and Ezio chased the attackers through the city's underground tunnels. Ezio left to recover the artifacts, while Claudia stayed behind to once again oversee the villa's repairs after the attack. In 1510, Ezio uncovered a letter written by Giovanni that revealed the location of Altair's library. Although he didn't show the letter to Claudia, Ezio told her of his plan to travel to Masyaf in search of the library. Claudia wished him luck and asked that he write to her from time to time. With Ezio gone, she temporarily assumed leadership of the Italian Brotherhood. While Ezio was away, Claudia dealt with the growing concerns within the Brotherhood, including the declining health of Pope Julius II, who had served as the assassin's protector for many years. She also received a letter from Desiderius Aramus, a Dutch scholar and the leader of the Northern European Brotherhood. In late 1512, Ezio returned to Rome with Sofia, who had become his wife after they married in Venice. Claudia shared encouraging news with him, revealing that Giovanni di Lorenzo de' Medici, the son of Ezio's late ally Lorenzo de' Medici, was close to ascending to the papacy. She also showed him Aramis's letter. Claudia congratulated Ezio on his marriage, approving of Sofia despite jokingly noting that she was a Venetian. Ezio then revealed his intention to retire from the assassin order, and announced that he had chosen Lodovico Ariosto as his successor as mentor. Claudia strongly objected, pointing out Ariosto's connections to Alfonso d'Este and his wife Lucrezia Borgia. She was even more frustrated to hear that Ezio planned to step away from assassin life altogether to build a vineyard and focus on writing. Claudia eventually remarried and settled in Rome with her new husband. Although she was initially upset with Ezio, she came to enjoy visiting him and Sofia at their villa in the Tuscan countryside. Over time, she grew especially fond of her niece and nephew, Flavia and Marcello. Despite being 15 years older than Sofia, Claudia never took on a motherly role toward her sister-in-law. Instead, the two formed a close friendship. Sofia would occasionally bring her children to Rome to visit Claudia, including one such visit in 1524, not long before Ezio's death. Petruccio Auditore was born in Florence in 1463 into the noble Auditore family. From birth, however, he was frail and frequently ill. His poor health eventually forced his parents to withdraw him from school, leaving him bedridden for much of his life. In 1476, Petruccio asked his brother Ezio to collect feathers for him. He didn't explain why, hoping to keep the surprise intact. It was meant to be a gift for their mother. Ezio agreed to help on the condition that Petruccio returned to bed afterward. The following day, Petruccio was arrested alongside his father and older brother on the false charges of treason. All three were publicly executed the next day, and that same night, Ezio ensured his fallen family members were given a proper burial. Sofia was born in 1476 to a Venetian couple living in Constantinople, where she spent her early years in the city's Venetian quarter. When conflict broke out between the Ottomans and Venice, life there became dangerous for Venetian families. As a result, Sofia and her parents were forced to flee the city and relocate to Italy in 1499. In 1505, Sofia's father commissioned the German artist Albrecht Dürer to paint her portrait as a gift for her 28th birthday, offering to pay whatever price the artist requested. When Dürer met Sofia, however, he refused any payment, saying that the chance to paint her likeness was reward enough. 2 years later, in 1507, Sofia returned to Constantinople to take over the bookshop that had once belonged to her father. She hoped to spread knowledge among the city's Ottoman population and share her love of books with as many people as possible. In 1511, Sofia came back to Constantinople from a trip to Rhodes aboard the same ship as Prince Suleiman I and Ezio. Unbeknownst to her, the building housing her bookshop had once served as a trading post for Niccolo and Maffeo Polo, who had founded a local assassin guild there in 1258. Not long after, Sofia formally met Ezio, who was in the middle of searching for the Mashav keys. Suspecting that the former Polo trading post might contain clues to the keys' whereabouts, Ezio searched the bookshop and uncovered a hidden passage leading to the Yerebatan cistern. When he returned, Ezio shared his discovery with Sofia, a map and one of the 5 Mashav keys. The map marked the locations of rare books, something that immediately captivated Sofia. Believing that the books held clues to the remaining keys, Ezio asked Sofia for help deciphering the map and locating them. Sofia agreed, asking only that she be allowed to borrow the books once Ezio was finished with them. Sometime after, Sofia waited at the harbour to collect a package, but she was unable to retrieve it when the ship's captain was detained due to improper paperwork. After Ezio intervened to scare off an overly persistent suitor, he offered to help her by infiltrating the ship and recovering the package himself. When he returned it to her, Sofia revealed the map it contained and provided Ezio with the location of the first book, which he promptly set out to find. Ezio later returned to Sofia's shop with the book, only to learn that the store had recently been broken into. During the theft, a burglar had stolen Albrecht Dürer's painting of Sofia, a possession she valued deeply for its sentimental importance. After hearing this, Ezio headed to the nearby Grand Bazaar, where he managed to track down the painting and recover it from a merchant. Upon its return, a grateful Sofia gave him the location of the next book and asked him about his profession. Ezio replied that he was something of a teacher, a claim Sofia met with skepticism. Ezio assured her though that he would explain everything to her one day. Sometime later, Ezio visited Sofia again and stayed to read a poem by Dante Alighieri, the same man who trained Domenico Auditore. During this visit, Sofia mentioned her plans to travel to Adrianople within the coming weeks to visit a new printing press, and gently asked Ezio to accompany her as an escort. Though tempted, Ezio declined, explaining that his time was limited. Sofia understood and continued deciphering the final code, though she asked him to wait one more day as she still had an errand to complete. When Ezio asked about the errand, Sofia explained that she needed to collect white tulips. Ezio volunteered to gather them for her, and she agreed in exchange for the information he sought. After obtaining the flowers, Ezio met Sofia in a park near the Hagia Sophia, where she had prepared food and drink for them to share. She explained that it was her way of thanking him for allowing her to play a small part in his adventure. Before they parted, Sofia finally revealed the location of the last book. After returning from Adrianople, Sofia resumed running her bookshop under the protection of Yusuf Tazim, who kept watch over her at Ezio's request. In March of 1512, her store was attacked by Byzantine Templars acting under the orders of Ottoman Prince Ahmet, who abducted Sofia during the assault. Forced into negotiations, Ezio reluctantly agreed to exchange the Masyaf keys for Sofia's safety. The meeting was arranged at the Galata Tower, and during the exchange, Ezio's attention was deliberately diverted when he spotted a woman resembling Sofia being held by a Byzantine soldier at the top of the tower. After surrendering the keys, Ezio rushed upwards to save her, only to discover that the woman was actually Aziz, and an assassin apprentice serving as a decoy. Realising the deception, Ezio searched from the tower's summit and spotted Sofia below, suspended in a noose in a nearby courtyard and slowly being strangled. Without hesitation, Ezio leapt from the tower using a parachute and descended into the courtyard. He killed the Byzantine soldier, freed Sofia, and helped her recover. Apologising for having drawn her into his dangerous world, Ezio expressed his regret, but Sofia assured him that he was not responsible for the cruelty of his enemies. Before she could ask who those enemies were, she and Ezio were hurried onto a carriage, setting off in pursuit of Ahmet and the stolen keys. Despite numerous obstacles and detours along the countryside roads, Sofia remained by Ezio's side during the chase. She eventually managed to catch up to Ahmet, though her carriage was destroyed in the pursuit, but she urged Ezio to continue alone. After confronting and defeating Ahmet, Ezio recovered the Masyaf keys, but before he could finish the encounter, Selim I, Ahmet's brother and the newly proclaimed Sultan, intervened and cast Ahmet from a cliff. Sofia soon reunited with Ezio as Selim formally introduced himself. When Selim ordered Ezio banished from the city, Ezio moved to attack him, but Sofia restrained him, preventing further bloodshed. As Selim departed, Sofia told Ezio that he made the right choice, and together they left for Masyaf. As they climbed towards the ancient fortress of Masyaf, Sofia and Ezio spoke at length about the history of the Assassin Order, how Altair had once restored it, and whether Ezio himself ever regretted the life he had chosen. When Ezio admitted that he was ready to retire, Sofia offered him comfort, telling him that he would not fall far if he allowed himself to let go of his past. After reaching the sealed entrance to Altair's library, Sofia helped Ezio by offering her perspective on how the Masyaf keys might be used. With her insight, Ezio succeeded in unlocking the door. Before he entered, Sofia asked him to return alive, and remained outside to wait for him. When Ezio emerged from the library, the two departed the fortress together, setting their course for Rome. After returning from Constantinople, Ezio and Sofia were married in Venice to secure the future of Sofia's bookshop. The store was transformed into both an assassin archive and a public bookshop, managed by Aziz. Following their marriage, Ezio and Sofia returned to Italy and travelled to Rome, where Sofia met her sister-in-law Claudia for the first time. Sofia stood beside Ezio when he announced his retirement as mentor of the Italian assassins, passing leadership of the Brotherhood to Lodovico Ariosto. By then, Sofia was pregnant with their daughter Flavia. By 1519, the family had settled into a quiet villa in the Tuscan countryside, made possible by the income from Sofia's bookshop. Sofia had given birth to Flavia in May of 1513, and a year later, she and Ezio welcomed their son Marcello. Sofia was present during a visit from their longtime friend Niccolo Machiavelli, who informed Ezio that Leonardo da Vinci's health was failing. In 1524, while Sofia travelled with Marcello to Rome to visit Claudia, Ezio encountered a young Chinese assassin named Xiao Jun. Though Ezio greeted her coldly, Sofia encouraged Xiao Jun to stay, noting how far she had travelled to meet him. When Xiao Jun's enemies later discovered her location, Ezio sent Sofia and their children to stay with Niccolo until the danger had passed. After the conflict was resolved, Sofia went to the market with Flavia while Ezio, having just finished writing, accompanied them. She helped Ezio sit on a nearby bench before she and Flavia purchased produce from a local stall. When they returned, they found Ezio lying back against the bench, motionless. In shock and grief, Sofia and Flavia rushed to him, only to discover that he had quietly passed away. Before his death, Ezio left a letter for Sofia in his study among his writings. In it, he reflected on the life he had lived, and confessed that the love he shared with Sofia had been the strength that sustained him until the end. Flavia Auditore was born in 1513, the daughter of Ezio and Sofia Auditore. In 1524, she befriended the Chinese assassin Xiao Jun, who had come to the Auditore villa seeking Ezio's guidance regarding the decline of the assassin order in China. Flavia and Xiao Jun spent time walking along the exterior of the villa until they were abruptly interrupted when Ezio seized Xiao Jun, believing her to be a threat to his daughter. Flavia quickly intervened, explaining that Xiao Jun was her friend and posed no danger. Noticing the assassin insignia on Xiao Jun's necklace, Ezio recognised her as a member of the Brotherhood and released her. He then instructed Flavia to return inside the villa, much to her disappointment. Sometime later, Xiao Jun revealed to Ezio that she had been followed by Chinese Templars. Concerned for his family's safety, Ezio arranged for Flavia, Sofia and Marcello to spend the night with his fellow assassin Niccolo Machiavelli. As they departed at dusk in a small wooden carriage, both Flavia and Sofia were saddened at the prospect of being separated from Ezio, but they left nonetheless. Later that year, Flavia accompanied her parents to a market in Florence. While she and her mother quickly purchased groceries, they lingered at a nearby store browsing masks. As Flavia examined one of them, she turned back toward her father and saw him lying motionless on a bench. Sensing that something was wrong, she alerted her mother, and together they rushed to Ezio's side, only to find that he had already passed away. And that is literally everything we know about Flavia. Unfortunately, not much is known about Marcello Auditore. What is known is that he was born in October of 1514 and was the younger brother of Flavia. Marcello lived with his parents and sister in the Tuscan countryside and occasionally accompanied his mother on visits to his aunt Claudia, and that is essentially the extent of the information available about his life. An interesting detail, however, is that Prince Suleiman I once introduced Ezio to Ahmet using the name Marcello in order to conceal Ezio's true identity. Finally, Fabrizzio Auditore is a character introduced in the novel Assassin's Creed Fragments, The Witches of the Moors. He shares the Auditore surname and therefore appears to be a member of the House of Auditore, though his exact relationship to Ezio remains unclear. Fabrizio was an Italian assassin who died in 1609. During the Labourd witch hunt of that year, he led a team of assassins to the Kingdom of France to recover a Shroud of Eden from the Templars. While storming the castle of Saint-Péay in southern France with his fellow assassins, Fabrizio confronted the old Templar adversary, Francois Asquer. The two engaged in a duel that ultimately resulted in both of their deaths. Despite Fabrizio's sacrifice, his teammate Margot succeeded in securing the shroud and escaped with it to the Americas. And that is the lore of every known member of the Auditore family explained. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day and thank you for watching.